Ever wonder what it's like when a suburban nightmare comes alive in the shape of a pristine white SUV? That morning, I found Karen's $80,000 Mercedes blocking my disabled veteran father's medical transport. Again, I knew that spotless SUV was about to vanish into oblivion. And the kicker? She'd practically beg me to take it. Picture this, it's 6 a.m. My dad's wheelchair-accessible van is honking and he's about to miss dialysis. Meanwhile, Karen is perched at her kitchen window with a skinny latte, actually smiling at our misery. That smile? It cost her everything. Her car, her house, her freedom, and wait until you hear what her own husband did when he found out. What would you do if your HOA president turned your life into a living hell? Drop your worst HOA nightmare below. I'm collecting stories for my lawyer. Are you tuning in from Texas, Florida? Because if your neighborhood has an HOA, you need to know the 3 laws I use to completely dismantle Karen, completely legally. After 47 blocked driveways, revenge served ice cold tastes even sweeter than you can imagine. Let me show you how this suburban war began. Karen Whitmore Stanton didn't just stumble into my life. She laser-targeted it like a heat-seeking missile aimed straight at happiness. I'm Marcus Castellano, 45, a construction contractor who made the cosmic error of inheriting Grandma Rosa's house in Pine Valley Estates. Grandma Rosa was legendary. Back in '92, she thought the formation of the HOA with the fury of 1,000 Italian mothers, calling it legalized extortion by bored fascists. God, I miss her wisdom. 3 months ago, I moved in with my pregnant wife, Deborah, 8 months along and still teaching 4th grade because teachers are tougher than Navy SEALs. And my father, Anthony, a Vietnam vet who's been wheelchair-bound since a construction accident reactivated old shrapnel wounds. This man built half of Phoenix with his bare hands before his spine gave out, and all he needed was a simple ramp to visit his grandkids. Enter Karen Whitmore Stanton, the human embodiment of a HOA violation notice. Technically legal, but morally bankrupt. Day 3 after moving in, diesel fumes from the moving truck still lingering, I watched a 5-foot tornado of suburban fury stride across my driveway in $800 heels, trailing enough perfume to violate the Geneva Convention. That structure needs architectural approval, she declared, pointing her French manicured finger at Dad's temporary wheelchair ramp like it was a crime scene. Her iPad case matched her coral cardigan, which matched her Mercedes, which matched her soul, cold, white, and overpriced. I tried explaining, my dad needs this ramp, while watching her tap, tap, tap on that screen like she was launching nuclear codes. The committee meets in 6 to 8 weeks, she said, smiling, the kind of smile that makes sharks nervous. I'm sure he can manage until then. That night, Dad attempted the stairs and nearly cracked his skull when his arms gave out. So, by 7 a.m., I was back at it, rebuilding that ramp with every power tool screaming in protest. By 7:15, a $500 fine appeared on my door, the paper still warm from her printer, carrying a faint scent of entitlement mixed with toner. But here's what I hadn't realized yet about Karen. She wasn't just some bored housewife playing dictator. She was a real estate agent who'd turned our HOA into her personal lead generation machine. Her white Mercedes GLS 450, complete with a Rules for Me vanity plate, doubled as a rolling billboard for her power. She lived in the McMansion directly across from me, a 6,000 square foot shrine to bad taste with perfect sightlines to monitor every code violation. Her husband, Richard, owned Stanton Construction, my fiercest competitor, though I wouldn't connect those dots until she'd already cost me $40,000 in lost contracts. Karen had honed a system over 8 years of presidential terror, applied just enough pressure to break you without leaving fingerprints, enforce rules like a sniper picking targets, and document everything in triplicate while violating federal mail laws. She believed she was untouchable, shielded by Robert's rules and wine-drunk board members who voted in lockstep because she controlled their property values like a suburban puppet master. What Karen didn't know was that she'd just declared war on the grandson of Rosa Castellano, the woman who once got a city councilman recalled for trying to turn her tomato garden into commercial property. I hadn't just inherited Grandma's rundown ranch house. I'd inherited her Sicilian temper, her file cabinet of neighborhood secrets, and her zero-tolerance policy for bullies, especially those in coral cardigans drenched in too much white diamond perfume. Game on, Karen. You just didn't know you'd already lost. 2 weeks later, Karen struck at my livelihood with a smile sweeter than cyanide. I was loading my F-250 at dawn when she appeared beside me like Satan in beige polyester, iPad clutched like a weapon of mass destruction. "Marcus," she cooed, her voice dripping with fake concern, "we need to discuss your commercial vehicle situation." The way she emphasized commercial made it sound like I was hauling hazardous waste. According to the emergency HOA meeting, conveniently held while I was pouring concrete across town, funny how emergencies always happen when I'm gone, all commercial vehicles now had to be screened from street view within 30 days. Daily fines, $100. My work truck, the very one feeding my family and keeping the mortgage paid, was apparently a visual terrorist attacking property values. "I'm sure you can make room in your garage," she suggested, fully aware it housed Dad's medical equipment and wheelchair van. Her perfume cloud was so dense I could almost taste it, white diamonds mixed with sulfur. That evening, Dad watched me pace the kitchen like a caged predator, while Deborah stress-cooked enough lasagna to feed a battalion. "Boys playing dirty," Dad observed, his war-trained instincts firing. "Question is, why is she targeting you specifically?" His words struck like lightning. This wasn't random, it was personal. Mini twist, number 1. The next morning provided the answer. 3 Stanton construction trucks parked brazenly on our street, their logos bigger than billboards, completely untouched by HOA fines. Richard Stanton, Karen's husband and my fiercest competitor, had mysteriously won every municipal contract I'd bid on lately. The pieces clicked together like bullets into a chamber. She was weaponizing HOA rules to crush competition. I spent the next 7 days building an airtight case, time-stamped photos, GPS coordinates, enough evidence to bury them both, even catching Richard directing crews while parked in the fire lane. The hypocrisy burned hotter than asphalt in August. The next HOA meeting became my war room. I walked into that beige community center, which smelled of despair and instant coffee, phone full of evidence, spine packed with Grandma Rosa's DNA. Karen presided from her elevated throne, flanked by wine club board members who clearly would rather be anywhere else. I seized the moment to address selective enforcement of vehicle codes, hijacking the projector before anyone could intervene. The room gasped as images filled the screen, Stanton trucks flagrantly violating every code she'd cited me for, dates and times screaming accusations. Karen's face cycled through 50 shades of rage, composure cracking like cheap makeup. "Those are temporary work situations," she sputtered, voice climbing octaves. "Your eyesore is permanent." The board voted 4-1 to uphold my fines, but their eyes betrayed the truth. They knew this was wrong, just too scared of their queen to revolt. Yet, mini twist number 2 awaited. My real ammunition came from Ethel Morrison, 82 pounds of pure rebellion wrapped in a grandma disguise. Ethel Morrison intercepted me in the parking lot, shoving a manila folder into my hands like we were covert agents. "Your grandmother was my best friend," she whispered, lavender perfume masking the scent of revolution. She knew this day would come. "Article 15, sweetie, read it tonight." Her arthritis-riddled fingers squeezed mine with surprising strength. Rosa always said, "The best defense is having better paperwork than your enemies." The yellow documents revealed Grandma's brilliance, a grandfather clause protecting all pre-existing property uses from future HOA restrictions. Our property had been running Rosa's landscaping since 1973, making it mixed-use commercial, making my truck untouchable, and rendering Karen's fines nothing more than toilet paper. Legal knowledge nugget: pre-existing use rights override new HOA rules. Always demand the original founding documents. Your property's history is your ultimate shield. One sentence can save you thousands. I posted Article 15 on my truck window, surrounded by photos of Grandma Rosa in action, including one where she's flipping off the camera with pure Italian fury. When Karen's Mercedes crawled past that morning, I watched her face contort behind the tinted glass, mouth moving in what I'm fairly certain were not prayers. She'd lost round one, but the way her hands gripped that steering wheel told me everything. This suburban dictator was about to go nuclear. Wounded Karens don't retreat, they reload. And my driveway was about to become her favorite battlefield. Karen's revenge began at 5:47 a.m. on a Monday, because apparently evil sets its alarm early. Her white Mercedes sat diagonally across my driveway, like an $80,000 roadblock, while she visited the neighbor whose house was darker than her soul. My 6:30 meeting with the Johnsons, a $40,000 bathroom remodel that would cover Dad's medical bills, was ticking closer as I waited for the cops, who arrived at 6:25, just in time to witness Karen's Oscar-worthy entrance. "Oh, Marcus, I had no idea you needed to
leave." Margaret had a plumbing emergency. Margaret had been in Florida for 3 weeks. I knew because I'd been collecting her mail, unlike some people who apparently steam it open for fun. The missed meeting went to Stanton Construction, shocking absolutely nobody. But Karen was only warming up. Tuesday, she blocked my concrete delivery, costing $500 in restocking fees. Wednesday, she trapped Dad's medical transport for 38 minutes while he honked helplessly, all because she accidentally left her car in the way during urgent HOA business. Thursday nearly broke me. Deborah, 9 months pregnant, stuck. Deborah was stuck behind Karen's Mercedes, writhing through contractions that mercifully turned out to be false labor, triggered by pure rage. Every time Karen moved just before legal consequences could catch her, and on Thursday I finally saw why. A police scanner app glowing on her phone, sandwiched between Pinterest and Wino Moms. She had weaponized suburban technology against us. Friday evening changed everything. Dad held up our water bill with the precision of inspecting enemy intelligence, the envelope wrinkled and smudged. "Someone's reading our mail," he announced. "See the adhesive steamed and re-glued in Nam? We'd have shot spies for technique this sloppy." Then the pattern hit me like a 2x4. Karen knew our appointments, our schedules, our entire lives because she was intercepting our mail. I'd read about this in an HOA horror story online. Mail theft is a federal felony, 5 years in prison, but proving it required more than Dad's forensic analysis. That weekend, I became a suburban spy. Amazon delivered a magnetic GPS tracker built to survive anything short of nuclear war. I installed a hidden camera disguised as a landscape light, ironically HOA approved, aimed perfectly at our mailbox. The trap? A fake appointment letter from Johnson Medical Group, scheduled for Tuesday at 2 p.m., placed enticingly like cheese for a very entitled rat. Monday's footage was beautiful. Karen in her $300 yoga outfit photographing our mail at 6 a.m., then pocketing the decoy entirely. I remembered my cousin Tony once saying federal prosecutors loved mail theft cases, slam dunks with mandatory minimums. And suddenly it felt like Christmas had come early. Tuesday at 1:45, her Mercedes blocked my driveway with the consistency of atomic decay. I let her marinate in smugness for 20 minutes before approaching, phone recording. "I need to leave for my appointment," I said sweetly. Her smirk could have curdled milk. What appointment? I held up an identical envelope, the Johnson Medical Group one, same as the one she stole yesterday, currently on her passenger seat between Starbucks cups and HOA violation forms. Watching her face collapse was better than pay-per-view boxing. While she scrambled for excuses, I bent to attach my note to her bumper, the GPS tracker clicking home like a loaded shotgun. Drive safe, Karen. Expired tags are expensive, aren't they? Her registration sticker was 6 months out of date, which I'd noticed while she was busy violating federal law. She peeled out like a teenager caught smoking, leaving rubber and the stench of burnt entitlement. That tracker became my window into Karen's criminal habits. Over the next week, it revealed her Mercedes regularly parked in handicapped spaces, fire lanes, and even at the DMV, where, thanks to public records, I discovered her license had been suspended since last year's DUI. The woman citing us for violations was driving illegally, everywhere, like a health inspector with food poisoning. My contractor buddy had warned me about people like this. The loudest rule enforcers are usually the biggest rule breakers. Projection, pure and simple. During one of her driveway blocking stunts, while she terrorized the Patel family over their rose bushes, I glimpsed inside her car. The glove box overflowed with tickets, court summons, and final notices. Empty wine bottles hid under designer bags, and the interior reeked of Pinot Grigio and bad decisions. This wasn't just hypocrisy, it was ammunition. Every citation she'd written while driving on a suspended license was legally invalid. Every HOA fine issued while committing crimes was grounds for a lawsuit. I'd been playing defense against someone who didn't even have a legal right to be on the field. The war was shifting, and Karen didn't know it yet. She thought she was fighting a contractor with a truck. She was actually fighting someone who had just discovered her glass house was built on quicksand, and I was about to start throwing boulders. Karen's nuclear option detonated on a Tuesday morning when a white van marked Adult Protective Services pulled into my driveway. The social worker, a tired-looking woman clutching a clipboard like a life preserver, explained that someone had reported serious concerns about an elderly veteran being neglected in unsafe conditions. Anonymous tip, of course. But I could smell Karen's
perfume on this attack from across the street, where she pretended to water already dead petunias while watching our humiliation unfold. Dad handled the inspection with military composure until they reached his medication questions. Then something cracked. "My boy takes better care of me than the VA ever did," he said, voice trembling, hands shaking, not from age but from fury mixed with flashbacks. "I didn't survive Ted to be treated like a child by some suburban tyrant." He stopped, jaw clenched, as the social worker photographed his living space like a crime scene. That night, his PTSD nightmares returned for the first time in years. I heard him calling for his squad at 3 a.m., trapped in a jungle that existed only in memory and in Karen's cruelty. 2 days later, Deborah called from her classroom, sobbing so hard I could barely understand her. "Marcus, someone reported me to CPS. They said I was recklessly endangering our baby, driving dangerously. They'd shown up at school, pulled her out of class in front of students. My pregnant wife, who had never received a speeding ticket in her life, was interrogated about her fitness as a mother because Karen had apparently followed her to work, photographing her going 28 in a 25 zone. The stress sent Deborah's blood pressure soaring. Her doctor ordered immediate bed rest. False labor struck again that night, and I spent 6 hours in the ER wondering if Karen's vendetta would cost us our baby. That's when I realized Karen had made a critical mistake. She had gotten cocky, sloppy. Hospitality security pulled me aside and showed footage from their parking garage. There's Karen's Mercedes tailing Deborah's car for 20 minutes, lurking like a designer-clad stalker. The security chief, a former Marine who had bonded with Dad during visits, handed me a DVD copy. "Might want to file a restraining order," he suggested. "This looks like harassment to me." But I had bigger plans than restraining orders. I had research to do. My contractor network runs deep in this city.
We build houses, we fix problems, we know everyone's business. 3 phone calls revealed Karen's history, 5 different addresses in 10 years, always leaving after neighborhood disputes. Tommy from Elite Plumbing knew her from Scottsdale. She got the HOA president arrested for embezzlement, then took over. A year later, she was gone, and 40 grand had vanished from the HOA account. Mike, the electrician, had an even worse story from Willow Creek subdivision. She reported 6 families to CPS before anyone proved she was making false reports. She fled before charges were filed. The pattern was clear as a blueprint. Karen was a serial neighborhood terrorist. The real gold came from Ethel during our weekly intelligence exchange in the produce aisle. "Did you know our Karen owes the HOA $47,000? She whispered over the bananas. "President exemption," she called it, "hasn't paid dues in 8 years while fining everyone else for being a day late." Ethel's nephew worked at the title company and had pulled records showing Karen's house carried 3 liens and a pending foreclosure notice. The real estate agent lecturing us about property values was drowning in debt, using HOA funds as her personal piggy bank. That night, our kitchen became a war room. Dad, energized by righteous fury, connected with other victims through the VA center. Turns out Karen had targeted 3 other veteran families. Deborah from her bed rest command center created a Facebook group that gained 50 members in 2 hours. Victims of Karen became both a support network and an intelligence network. The Patel family shared how she reported their Hindu decorations as gang symbols. The Johnsons revealed she called the health department on their daughter's lemonade stand. Even the quiet Korean family posted videos of Karen screaming about their ethnic cooking smells. Every story painted the same picture: a bigot with a badge, abusing power to torment anyone different. The CPS investigator returned that week, and I was ready. His name was Jim Martinez, a Vietnam vet with eyes that had seen too much bureaucratic cruelty. When he saw Dad's service medals and heard about the APS harassment, something shifted in his expression. "I've seen this pattern before," he said quietly. "Serial false reporters targeting military families, minorities, anyone vulnerable. It's predatory." He handed me his card, personal cell number written on the back. "When you nail her, and you will, call me. I'll testify about the false reports. People like her make our job harder and hurt real victims." As he left, he paused at the door. "Your dad reminds me of my sergeant. Take care of him and take her down." The pieces were aligning like dominoes waiting to fall. Financial fraud, mail theft, false reports, stalking, civil rights violations. Karen had built an empire of crimes, convinced her HOA throne made her untouchable. She had no idea about our growing alliance, our
mountain of documented evidence, or that her precious annual HOA gala was just 3 weeks away, the same gala where she worked for real estate clients, played queen to potential buyers, and flaunted a reputation worth more than her fake designer bags. Ethel had secured us 3 invitations, and I had contractor friends who specialized in audiovisual setups. Karen loved the spotlight. We were about to make sure she got one she'd never forget. The breakthrough came at 2 a.m. on a sleepless Thursday while I dug through HOA documents like a detective possessed. Buried in subsection 47C of our insurance policies, the kind of mind-numbing legalese designed to keep casual readers away, I found the golden bullet that could end Karen's reign. My hands actually shook as I read it 3 times to make sure I wasn't dreaming. According to the HOA's own automotive coverage policy, any vehicle on HOA common property could be towed if it met 3 criteria: blocking emergency access, unregistered or uninsured, or posing a safety hazard. The kicker? Karen's driveway, the concrete pad where her Mercedes sat like a throne, wasn't actually her property. A surveyor's error in 2003 had placed her driveway 6 feet into HOA common area, a mistake no one had caught because who checks surveys after construction? Karen had been illegally parking on community property for 15 years while fining others for infractions that didn't even exist. I called Rodrigo at dawn, my best friend since high school who now owned Rodriguez Recovery, the county's most successful towing company. "Hermano, you awake?" I asked. "For you," he replied, "always. What's the target?" I explained the situation, and his laugh was pure joy. "The white Mercedes? The one whose owner called my truck a visual pollution at the city council meeting? Oh, this is destiny, brother." Everything by the book, legal as Sunday church. The beauty was in the simplicity. State law said vehicles with suspended registration on public property could be immediately impounded. HOA bylaws, the very ones Karen wrote herself, sealed the deal. In her power-drunk wisdom, Karen had written the rules herself, stating the board president must enforce all regulations equally, without exception. She'd created a legal bear trap and parked her own foot squarely in it every single day. Her suspended license, expired registration, and illegal parking made her Mercedes a towing company's dream score. But the revelation went even deeper. That survey error meant Karen had been collecting HOA violation fines while simultaneously breaking HOA rules more egregiously than anyone else. Every single fine she issued while parked illegally was potentially invalid. Every board meeting she presided over from her throne of hypocrisy was grounds for a lawsuit. I felt like an archaeologist who'd stumbled upon a tomb full of legal gold. Dad listened over morning coffee, tactical mind instantly calculating angles. "It's like she built a minefield, then forgot her own map," he mused. "Pride before the fall, boy. Same in war, same in HOAs. Deborah, still on bed rest but sharp as ever, added the crucial insight. The gala. She'd park there for sure, probably in a fire lane for her grand entrance. Maximum witnesses, maximum humiliation. The annual HOA gala was Karen's coronation ceremony, where she held court for potential real estate clients and reinforced her grip on power. 300 people would attend, including local media covering the event. I spent the next week preparing legal documentation with the precision of a surgeon. Every form Rodrigo would need, every legal justification, every piece of evidence meticulously organized and copied. The law was beautiful in its clarity. We weren't just allowed to tow her car, we were technically obligated to, once we knew about the violations. As HOA members, aware of illegal activity on common property, failing to act would make us complicit. Karen's own rules demanded her destruction. The final piece fell into place when I discovered subsection 47C, paragraph 9. In cases of vehicles towed from common areas, the HOA board president is personally liable for all fees, storage costs, and associated legal expenses if the vehicle was parked with their knowledge or consent. Since Karen couldn't claim ignorance of her own parking, she'd be personally on the hook for every penny. At Rodriguez Recovery's premium rates, $500 hook fee, $200 daily storage, plus administrative costs, her Mercedes would generate bills that would make her mortgage look modest. Rodrigo and I met at his yard to plan the operation, surrounded by the mechanical poetry of tow trucks and the smell of diesel justice. "We do this clean," he said, patting his truck's hood. "Cameras rolling, paperwork perfect, by the absolute letter of the law. When she screams lawsuit, I want to hand her the statute she wrote herself." We practiced approach angles, the fastest hookup method, and the exact route to avoid any legal ambiguity. This wasn't revenge, this was law enforcement. The fact that it would happen at her gala, in front of everyone she'd terrorized, and news cameras she'd invited herself to, that was just karma with perfect timing. Our revolution started in my garage, which reeked of motor oil and righteous fury. Within a week, it had become the unofficial headquarters of the anti-Karen resistance, complete with whiteboards, laptops, and enough coffee to fuel a small nation. The alliance grew faster than black mold in a negligent landlord's property. 12 households officially on board, with more joining daily as word spread through the neighborhood like wildfire. Ethel Morrison became our inside woman, maintaining her facade of a harmless old lady while gathering intelligence like a geriatric James Bond. Karen trusts me because I bring her zucchini bread, she explained, eyes twinkling with mischief. She has no idea I've been recording every confession she makes about dealing with problem neighbors. Ja Patel, our forensic accountant by day and HOA victim by night, spent 3 weeks analyzing financial records with the dedication of someone fined $500 for having the wrong shade of beige mailbox. The Johnsons, a tech-savvy couple Karen had harassed over their solar panels, handled our digital evidence compilation, creating a secure cloud server they nicknamed Karen Leaks. The real coup came from Mike Brennan, our mailman for 15 years, who had watched Karen rifle through mail slots like a raccoon with a real estate license. Federal postal inspectors have been waiting for a case like this, he told me over a beer in my garage. Mail theft by an HOA official? That's Christmas morning for those guys. He'd already documented every complaint, kept photos of tampered boxes, and submitted preliminary reports, just waiting for our signal to escalate. My lawyer, Gary Chen, who had offered a free consultation after Karen tried to intimidate him over his ethnically inappropriate koi pond, laid out our legal strategy with the precision of a military campaign. We filed the HOA records request first, forcing them to produce everything. Then we hit them with the survey discrepancy, the financial audit demand, and the compilation of false reports to agencies, death by 1,000 paper cuts, all perfectly legal. He had already drafted 17 motions, each a torpedo aimed straight at Karen's hall. The best part? HOA bylaws required the board to pay legal fees for any member request that uncovered malfeasance. Technical preparation consumed our nights. We installed hidden cameras at strategic points, all on private property, all perfectly legal, creating a surveillance network that would make casinos jealous. The Johnsons wrote a program that synced all footage to timestamps, creating an indisputable record of Karen's movements. Rodrigo contributed GPS trackers for the tow trucks, ensuring perfect documentation from gala to impound. If she tried to claim we damaged her car or took anything, we'll have video from 16 angles proving otherwise, Rodrigo explained, installing his 7th dashcam. Dad had turned our operation into a full-scale military exercise, complete with code names and synchronized watches. He'd rallied 5 other veterans from the VA center, all with stories about Karen's harassment. Operation Toe Freedom, he called it, sketching attack plans like he was back in tactical ops. His contribution was brilliant in its simplicity, a phone tree capable of mobilizing 40 witnesses within 10 minutes. When that Mercedes gets hooked, he said, I want everyone with a camera phone recording, multiple angles, undeniable evidence. Deborah, despite her bed rest orders, became our intelligence analyst. Look at this pattern, she said, laptop balanced on her pregnant belly, showing charts that looked like something out of FBI headquarters. Karen's violations cluster around the 1st and 15th paydays. She's using fines as income supplements. She'd identified 23 households hit with suspicious fines right before Karen's mortgage payments were due. It was a shakedown disguised as community standards. Her teacher's instinct for organization had created a database that would make any prosecutor weep with joy. The printer in my garage ran hot enough to warm the room, churning out evidence packets that could paper the walls of a courtroom. Financial irregularities highlighting $186,000 in miscellaneous expenses, coincidentally matching Karen's credit card statements. Time-stamped photos of her Mercedes in handicapped spots at 12 locations. Transcripts of HOA meetings where she openly admitted targeting certain neighbors. Each packet was a prosecutorial wet dream, bound in clear covers. 3 nights before the gala, we held our final strategy meeting. 43 people crammed into my garage, sharing stories that would horrify anyone.
Believed in basic decency. The Korean family fined for family dinners. The black veteran reported for loitering while checking his own mail. The elderly Jewish couple penalized for an unapproved door modification. Every story strengthened our resolve. This wasn't just about my family anymore. It was about everyone bulldozed by a petty tyrant with a clipboard. Remember, I addressed the group, everything we do is legal, documented, and justified. We're not vigilantes. We're citizens enforcing our own bylaws when the president refuses. When that tow truck arrives, I want calm, legal, peaceful observation. Let Karen be the one who loses control, and she will. The room buzzed like electricity before lightning. Everyone knew their role, their position, their timing. We'd turned Karen's own weapons against her: organization, documentation, and precision. Ruthless adherence to rules. The gala was in 72 hours. The trap was set with Swiss watch precision. Karen thought she was attending her annual coronation. Instead, she would be the star of her own public execution, directed by the people she'd terrorized, produced by the laws she'd written, and broadcast to everyone who mattered. Rodrigo had cleared his schedule, his best driver on standby, the tow truck polished until it gleamed like justice itself. We were ready. Karen just didn't know it yet. Karen must have sensed danger the way animals smell earthquakes, because 3 days before the gala, she launched a desperate offensive that would have impressed Patton. It began when I found my truck on blocks, all 4 tires slashed with surgical precision. Security footage showed a figure in black at 3 a.m., but conveniently, spray paint had obscured 3 of my 4 cameras just minutes before. The 4th camera, hidden in a birdhouse Deborah made at summer camp 20 years ago, captured everything in crystal clarity, including Karen's distinctive French manicure gripping the knife. "She's escalating," Dad observed, examining the damage like a crime scene investigator. "Seen this in combat. When rats get cornered, they attack. The replacement tires cost $1,200, but the insurance claim would be interesting. How do you explain your HOA president committing felony vandalism?" Then came the call from my biggest client. "Marcus, I'm sorry, but we're going with another contractor. Someone sent us disturbing information about your business practices." The disturbing information was an anonymous blog called The Truth About Castellano Construction, complete with photoshopped images showing code violations and safety hazards that didn't exist. The blog was hosted on the HOA's official website server, a detail Karen had apparently forgotten while committing cyber defamation. The Johnsons traced the IP address to HOA board meetings, time-stamped to when Karen would have been present. She had literally defamed me using HOA resources during official meetings, adding wire fraud to her growing collection of felonies. The real shock came when 5 more clients called within 2 days, all canceling contracts worth over $200,000 total. She was trying to bankrupt me before the gala. Rodrigo called Wednesday night, voice tight with controlled anger. "Someone offered me $5,000 to refuse any tow calls from Pine Valley Estates this weekend. Cash, untraceable, very professional." He'd recorded the entire conversation, including the part where the caller mentioned consequences if he didn't comply. "Thing is, Hermano, they called from the HOA office line. Caller ID doesn't lie." Witness tampering and bribery now joined Karen's growing criminal resume, which was starting to resemble a textbook on felony law. Thursday brought the cruelest blow yet. Deborah called me, sobbing from the elementary school. "Marcus, CPS was contacted once more. They removed both children from their classrooms, questioned them about our family life, asked if their parents ever hurt them, if they felt safe, or if there were drugs in the house. Our kids were terrified." The investigator was kind but thorough. The accusations included specific claims that required follow-up. I rushed to the school to find my 8-year-old son in tears, asking why the lady wanted to know if his dad hit his mom. My daughter, only 6, kept repeating that she promised we were good parents. That's when something broke inside me, but it was a cold, steady break, the kind that forges steel. I called Jim Martinez, the CPS investigator who had given me his card. "It's starting again," I told him. Same person making the report? He asked, his tone sharpening. Same timing, right before a major HOA event where you're set to expose financial fraud. There was a pause. Then he instructed, file a police report immediately. I'll provide my statement on the repeated false reports. This is witness intimidation using state agencies. The DA takes that very seriously. He was right. Karen had moved from civil harassment into criminal dance behavior. The police detective who handled our report was a former HOA victim himself. "Let me guess," he said, glancing at our evidence. "The president treats it like a personal empire. Selective rules targeting anyone who pushes back. My HOA once sued me over the wrong type of grass." He carefully documented everything, especially the cyber issues. Blogging during HOA meetings on HOA servers. That was theft of services and wire fraud. Federal prosecutors thrive on wire fraud. It's one of their favorite charges. But Karen saved her biggest move for Friday morning, just a day before the gala. I was finishing preparations when Ethel called in a panic. "Emergency HOA board meeting in 1 hour. Karen's pushing new bylaws." She wanted to outlaw recording devices at HOA events, stop members from hiring their own tow services, and even ban gatherings of more than 4 people on HOA property. She was literally trying to erase our plan, using her position to shield herself. The meeting was a spectacle of panic. Karen sat at the head like a dictator bracing for revolt, her makeup smudged, her voice shrill. "These measures are vital to protect our neighborhood from coordinated harassment," she stammered, reading stiffly from her notes. The 4 board members shifted uneasily as over 40 homeowners crowded the room. When she demanded an immediate vote without discussion, ignoring Robert's rules, Dr. Patel rose. "Point of order, Madam President. Bylaws require 30 days' notice before a vote. Page 47, Section 3. Karen's face turned from red to purple. "I'm invoking emergency powers for community safety." "What emergency?" Ethel asked sweetly. "The gala? That's been planned for months." The board rejected all her proposals. The 3 measures failed, 40-1, with only Karen voting for her own coup. Even her loyal wine club supporters could sense the desperation. As the meeting unraveled into chaos, Karen made one last declaration. Anyone disrupting tomorrow's gala would be arrested for trespassing. Gary Chen, our attorney, rose with calm precision. "Actually, Karen, the gala is an official HOA event held on common property. Every dues-paying member has the right to attend and document. Page 15, Section 8 of the bylaws. You wrote them yourself." Karen bolted from the room like her hair was ablaze, but not before I caught a look in her eyes that confirmed everything. Raw, unmistakable fear. She knew we were planning something, but the uncertainty was eating her alive. That night, our group chat buzzed with updates. Cameras charged, positions confirmed, witnesses set. A local news crew covering the gala had been tipped off about possible fireworks. Rodrigo's truck sat polished and parked 5 minutes away. Everything was ready for Saturday night's showdown. Karen had been lashing out blindly for weeks. Tomorrow, we'd flip the switch and shine a light. Saturday morning arrived with Karen's most vicious strike yet, a full-scale smear campaign that Stalin himself might have admired. I woke to 17 missed calls and a text from my brother in New Jersey. "Why is there a blog saying you're under investigation for elder abuse?" The anonymous site, Pine Valley Truth, had gone viral overnight, plastered with photos of my father looking frail, twisted captions implying neglect, and fake testimonials from concerned neighbors describing dangerous conditions in our home. The worst was a doctored photo of Dad on the floor, manipulated from a real picture taken during his physical therapy. But Karen had made a crucial mistake. In her rage, she posted specific details about Dad's prescriptions, information she could only have obtained by illegally tampering with his mail. The very blog meant to frame me for state crimes contained evidence of her federal ones. My phone exploded with calls as clients, friends, and relatives reacted to the viral lies.
Deborah's blood pressure shot so high, her doctor threatened immediate hospitalization. "She's trying to put me in labor before tonight," Deborah gasped between contractions. "She knows we won't leave if I'm admitted." By midday, the chaos escalated beyond Karen's usual cruelty. The doorbell rang to reveal 2 police officers conducting a welfare check on my father. Across the street, Karen's Mercedes sat idling, her shadowy outline perched like a vulture waiting for carnage. "We got reports of yelling and violence," the younger officer said, hand brushing his holster. Dad wheeled himself to the door with the poise of a soldier. "Officers, I'm Anthony Castellano, retired staff sergeant, Purple Heart recipient. The only violence here is against the truth." What happened next was pure poetic justice. The senior cop studied Dad's face, then broke into a wide grin. Tony Castellano. Holy hell, you saved my uncle's life in '71. Jimmy Morrison from the 25th Infantry," the older officer said. They hugged like brothers reunited, while Karen watched her false complaint turn into an actual reunion.
Officer Morrison took careful notes about the bogus report, muttering about people who waste police time while real crimes go unaddressed. As they left, he handed me his card. "When you catch whoever's doing this, call me. False reports cost us response time on real emergencies. This can kill people." That afternoon, we received a bombshell from an unlikely place. Richard Stanton, Karen's husband, stood on my doorstep looking as if he'd just realized his wife was a predator. Financially speaking, he hadn't been far off. "I'm done covering for her," he said, sliding a thumb drive across my palm. "She's wrecked our money, our name, our marriage. This has everything." His hands trembled as he spoke. The drive contained a prosecutor's dream: HOA bank screenshots showing transfers to Karen's shopping accounts, emails coordinating harassment schemes, private investigator reports on neighbors, and recordings of her plotting fake CPS complaints. He'd believed she was protecting property values. He didn't know she was malicious. The files were brutal. Clear evidence of transfers from HOA accounts to pay for personal expenses, coordinated harassment plans, and, most damning, a spreadsheet listing neighbors to target by race, religion, and military service, with notes like "Mexicans, lower values," and complaints about too many Asians on Oak Street. She had cataloged hate and harassment with cold efficiency. The audio clip was the clincher. Karen, drunk at a wine club, bragging about running out the undesirables and making Pine Valley pure again. Dr. Patel called an emergency pre-gala meeting at 4 p.m. 47 homeowners squeezed into my garage, which now smelled like resolve. "I finished the forensic audit," he announced, projecting spreadsheets that made people gasp. "Karen Whitmore Stanton has embezzled $247,000 over 8 years. Best of all, she'd been sloppy. Every transfer traceable, every receipt a paper trail. Credit cards used for personal bullies, false expense reports, wire fraud, tax evasion, embezzlement, federal crimes with real penalties." The room erupted, but stayed focused. A Korean family produced $30,000 in legal bills from bogus violations. A black veteran showed medical bills tied to stress-induced heart issues. A Jewish couple estimated $50,000 lost in home value from harassment. Together, we represented more than $400,000 in measurable damages, not counting the emotional toll. Gary Chen stood like a judge. "Tonight, we don't just tow a car," he said. "We serve justice. Every camera, every witness, every document counts. She's going to prison, or at least she's going to be exposed." As the meeting broke up, Dad rolled over to me, eyes sharp and steady. "Logistics update. Weather's perfect. No rain to mess with the cameras," Dad reported. Mike confirmed 3 news crews on site. Rodrigo staged with a backup truck in case she bolts in another vehicle. Ethel's already inside. Karen's planning her big entrance at 7:45 for maximum drama. He handed me a checklist with military precision. "And son, your grandmother would be proud. Rosa always said the sweetest revenge is legal, with plenty of witnesses." The sun was setting on Karen's reign. In 2 hours, she'd glide into the gala in her white Mercedes, expecting applause and adoration. Instead, she'd meet 47 homeowners armed with cameras, a tow truck ready for her car, and enough evidence to paper the walls of a federal courthouse. Her blogs, false reports, and intimidation campaigns were nothing more than an extinction burst, the desperate thrashing of a tyrant sensing the end. Tonight, the revolution would be broadcast, uploaded, and shared with HOAs nationwide as a warning. Push decent people too far, and they'll fight back with the Constitution, criminal law, and a fully licensed tow truck. Karen thought herself untouchable. In 90 minutes, she'd discover the difference between untouchable and untouchable behind bars. The Pine Valley Estates annual gala began at 7:00 sharp. The community center was transformed with fairy lights and white linens into Karen's personal throne room. 3 news crews mingled with 300 residents, expecting to cover a fluffy piece on neighborhood unity. None realized they were about to film the most explosive HOA meeting in YouTube history. I stood near the entrance with Dad, both of us in suits, watching Ethel glide through the crowd like a spy in pearls, relaying updates via group text. At 7:43, Karen's white Mercedes glided into view, sleek as a shark fin cutting through black water. She pulled into the fire lane directly in front of the main doors. Maximum visibility for her grand arrival, maximum illegality for us. The universe served us a gift. She spent 3 minutes adjusting her makeup, giving everyone time to ready their cameras. Through the tinted glass, we watched her rehearse her smile, oblivious to 47 phones already recording her last crime. She stepped out like she was hitting the Oscars red carpet, wearing a $5,000 sequined gown that glittered as brightly as her delusions. Her perfume, Chanel No. 5 with a heavy dose of arrogance, drifted 5 seconds before she appeared. She sauntered past the no parking fire lane sign as if it were a stage marker. Her heels clicked with the rhythm of entitlement. Behind her, the Mercedes sat illegally parked, expired tag visible, one tire kissing the yellow fire lane stripe, a detail Rodrigo later called poetic justice. Inside, Karen worked the crowd with realtor precision, air-kissing prospects and basking in compliments like a monarch collecting tribute. Cameras captured her basking in praise, blind to the coup forming outside. At 8:15, Dr. Patel took the stage for a special presentation. Karen leaned forward in the front row, expecting accolades. Instead, the projector flickered to life with HOA financial records that drew a collective gasp from the audience like a horror movie come alive. "Ladies and gentlemen," Dr. Patel said with prosecutorial calm, "I present 8 years of systematic embezzlement totaling $247,000 in stolen HOA funds." The screen lit up with receipts, Vegas trips charged as her Mercedes payments listed as board retreats, her luxury car as community vehicle maintenance, her wine cellar billed as meeting refreshments. The crowd shifted from murmurs to an uproar as each slide peeled back another layer of corruption. Karen's expression flickered from smug to shocked to enraged, sequins trembling with fury. "This is illegal," she screamed, leaping to her feet so hard her wineglass shattered. "You can't access those records without board approval." Gary Chen rose with composed authority, holding up documentation. "Actually, we can," he said. "Page 73 of the bylaws you authored allows any 5 members to demand an emergency financial review if fraud is suspected. We have 47 signatures." The news cameras cut between Karen and the projected evidence like cameras at a hellish tennis match. Then Ethel's text hit our phones. Showtime. Through the windows, Rodrigo's flatbed tow truck rolled into view like a chariot of justice, emergency lights painting the building red and blue. Carlos, Rodrigo's top operator and an ex-Marine, executed the maneuver with military precision. The crowd flooded the windows, phones held high. As Carlos readied the wheel lift, Karen froze, her mind failing to catch up with the scene outside. "That's my car!" she screamed, barreling through the crowd in designer heels. "You can't do this! I'm the president!" She shoved through the doors to find Carlos calmly attaching the lift, every step deliberate and lawful, while Rodrigo recorded and checked a clipboard. "Ma'am, this vehicle is illegally parked in a fire lane on HOA common property and displays expired registration. Under HOA bylaws Section 47C and State Statute 28-24839, we are authorized," Rodrigo announced. The cameras followed every moment. Karen grabbed Carlos's arm, assault on camera. She kicked the tow truck, property damage on camera. She hurled obscene threats that would sink any professional reputation, broadcast quality audio. "I know people," she shrieked. "I'll have your business destroyed. You racist slur, don't know who you're messing with." The hateful epithet hung in the air like a stink in a church. 300 people heard it. 3 news crews recorded it. The Channel 7 reporter turned to his cameraman. "Tell me you got that." He nodded, zooming in, as Karen understood in brutal clarity that she had just ended her own real estate career, captured in 4K. But the universe had one more gift in store. As Carlos locked down the Mercedes, a white sedan with official plates pulled up. 2 men stepped out, one a sheriff's deputy, the other in a suit flashing federal credentials. The postal inspector Mike had promised had arrived, his timing almost divine. "Karen Whitmore Stanton," the deputy called, voice carrying across the stunned crowd. "We have a warrant for your arrest on charges of mail theft, wire fraud, and filing false reports with Child Protective Services." 300 people gasped together, the sound of communal catharsis. Karen tried to flee, sequined dress and heels betraying her after 4 frantic steps. She tripped over her own arrogance and landed face first in the decorative bushes, the same ones she'd once fined the Johnsons for trimming incorrectly. The deputy hauled her up, cuffs flashing in the gala lights. "You have the right to remain silent," he began, as dozens of phones streamed her Miranda rights to Facebook Live. "Marcus," she wailed, mascara streaking down her face like toxic rivers. "You did this! You ruined everything!" I stepped forward, Dad rolling beside me, and delivered the line I'd been weeks to say. "No, Karen, you did this. We just made sure everyone saw it." The crowd exploded in applause, drowning out her hysterics. Karen grabbed Carlos's arm, assault on camera. She kicked the tow truck, property damage on camera. She hurled obscene threats that would sink any professional reputation, broadcast quality audio. "I know people," she shrieked. "I'll have your business destroyed. You racist slur, don't know who you're messing with." The hateful epithet hung in the air like a stink in a church. 300 people heard it. 3 news crews recorded it. The Channel 7 reporter turned to his cameraman. "Tell me you got that." He nodded, zooming in, as Karen understood in brutal clarity that she had just ended her own real estate career, captured in 4K. But the universe had one more gift in store. As Carlos locked down the Mercedes, a white sedan with official plates pulled up. 2 men stepped out, one a sheriff's deputy, the other in a suit flashing federal credentials. The postal inspector Mike had promised had arrived, his timing almost divine. "Karen Whitmore Stanton," the deputy called, voice carrying across the stunned crowd. "We have a warrant for your arrest on charges of mail theft, wire fraud, and filing false reports with Child Protective Services." 300 people gasped together, the sound of communal catharsis. Karen tried to flee, sequined dress and heels betraying her after 4 frantic steps. She tripped over her own arrogance and landed face first in the decorative bushes, the same ones she'd once fined the Johnsons for trimming incorrectly. The deputy hauled her up, cuffs flashing in the gala lights. "You have the right to remain silent," he began, as dozens of phones streamed her Miranda rights to Facebook Live.
"Marcus," she wailed, mascara streaking down her face like toxic rivers. "You did this! You ruined everything!" I stepped forward, Dad rolling beside me, and delivered the line I'd been weeks to say. "No, Karen, you did this. We just made sure everyone saw it." The crowd exploded in applause, drowning out her hysterics.
As the deputy led her to the patrol car, Richard stepped forward with a process server at his side. "Karen, you're being served," he said, sliding divorce papers through the window. "And before you ask, yes, I'm keeping the house. Check the prenup clause about criminal convictions." The look on her face, captured from 17 different angles, was nothing short of Renaissance art painted in live-action karma. Rodrigo's flatbed rolled away with her Mercedes at the same moment the deputy's cruiser pulled off with Karen, two symbols of false power stripped in unison. News crews swarmed for interviews, but the story was writing itself. HOA president arrested at gala after towing exposes years of crimes. Within an hour, hashtag #InHOAKaren was trending nationwide, the footage racking up 2 million views before midnight. Justice hadn't just been served, it was garnished with public humiliation, federal charges, and viral exposure. The tyrant had fallen, and Pine Valley Estates was free. The emergency HOA election happened right then in the community center, democracy rising from the ashes of Karen's empire under the hot glare of camera lights. Ethel Morrison was elected president by acclamation, not a single dissenting voice. Her first act was to reverse every fine issued in the past 8 years pending review. The motion passed unanimously. Instantly, more than $400,000 in predatory fines evaporated, and you could hear people crying with relief. Within a week, the story had blown past our wildest expectations. Footage of Karen's arrest racked up 2.3 million views, spawning a flood of memes and serving as a warning to HOA tyrants nationwide. The postal inspector's investigation revealed she had stolen mail across 3 states, leaving a trail of broken communities behind her. The federal prosecutor, a woman who looked like she'd been waiting her whole career for a case this satisfying, hit Karen with 47 charges, from wire fraud to civil rights violations. She eventually took a plea deal: 2 years in federal prison, 3 years of probation, $300,000 in restitution, and a lifetime ban from serving on any HOA board, nonprofit, or community organization. It was the legal equivalent of snapping Voldemort's wand. The rebirth of Pine Valley Estates felt like watching a garden bloom after weeds were ripped out. Under Ethel's leadership, we launched a new era of transparency. All financial records posted online, monthly town halls, and no fines without a majority resident vote. The Korean family built a breathtaking cultural garden where Karen once parked illegally. The Patels hosted Diwali celebrations that lit up the neighborhood. Dad started a veteran support group in the community center, no longer fearing harassment for unauthorized gatherings. My business didn't just survive, it flourished. Being known as the contractor who brought down a corrupt HOA president turned out to be better advertising than any billboard. Clients called specifically asking for the guy who fought Karen, and my calendar filled 18 months in advance. Deborah safely delivered our daughter Victoria, named for the victory, 2 weeks after Karen entered federal custody. Even Richard Stanton became a client, hiring me to renovate the house he'd won in the divorce. "Least I can do," he said as he wrote the check. "Besides, I'm dating Dr. Patel's sister now." Funny how life works. The ripple effect spread beyond our subdivision. Inspired by our story, 3 other neighborhoods launched investigations into their HOAs and uncovered similar corruption. A state legislator who lived 2 streets away drafted Karen's Law, requiring HOA financial transparency and curbing presidential powers. I testified at the state capitol, telling our story to lawmakers who, for once, actually listened. The bill passed 97-3, proof that taking down one bully can protect thousands of future victims.
6 months later, I received a letter that made everything worth it. It came from Karen's estranged daughter, who had cut ties after her mother reported her Hispanic boyfriend to ICE. "Thank you," she wrote. "My mother's arrest freed our family from her reign of terror. I'm in law school now, studying housing discrimination. The HOA scholarship is helping me pay tuition. Ironic, isn't it? We'd established the Rosa Castellano Memorial Scholarship using recovered HOA funds, dedicated to students fighting housing discrimination. Karen's stolen money now funded lawyers who would stop future Karens in their tracks. Poetic justice at its finest." A year after the arrest, Pine Valley Estates hosted its first Freedom from Tyranny Festival. The smell of barbecue replaced the old stench of fear. Children bounced in inflatable castles where Karen's Mercedes once blocked driveways. Neighbors laughed and talked freely, no longer glancing around for violations. Dad manned the grill, regaling anyone who'd listen with war stories and HOA battle tales.
Ethel, our 83-year-old president, worked the crowd like the community grandmother she had become. The festival's guest of honor was Jim Martinez, the CPS investigator who'd helped expose Karen's false reports. He led a workshop on spotting harassment disguised as concern, teaching families how to fight back against weaponized bureaucracy. What happened here, he told the crowd, should be taught in every civics class. You proved ordinary citizens can stand up to corruption and win. I found Rodrigo near the beer tent, his tow truck parked proudly with a sign, "The Truck That Towed Tyranny. Photos $5, all proceeds benefit veterans." By mid-afternoon, he'd raised $3,000. "Best tow of my career," he grinned, clinking beers. Though I hear Karen's working a mall kiosk now, selling phone cases. Tried to cite a customer for the wrong brand. We laughed, but there was pity mixed in. Some people never learn. As sunset painted the sky, I stood with Deborah and our kids, watching neighbors celebrate freedom. Dad rolled up with baby Victoria on his lap, both of them wearing matching HOA Survivor t-shirts Ethel had made. "You know," he said, surveying the crowd, "your grandmother would have loved this. Rosa always said the best revenge against bullies is a life well lived in spite of them." He was right. We'd won more than a battle against one corrupt HOA president. We'd built a community that looked out for each other, that celebrated differences, that understood home values had nothing to do with property prices, and everything to do with human dignity. "Hey everyone," I called out, raising my beer. "Got a horror story about your HOA? Drop it in the comments. The worst one gets featured in next week's video. And don't forget to subscribe and hit that bell, because next time we're exposing the racist HOA that tried to ban American flags. You won't believe how that one ends." The crowd cheered, phones already typing their own tales of suburban tyranny. Here's the truth I learned fighting Karen. Your home is your castle, but knowledge is your sword and shield. Every bylaw she wrote to oppress us became the weapon we used to defeat her. Every document she falsified became evidence. Every neighbor she terrorized became a witness. In the end, the very rules she worshipped became the chains that dragged her to federal prison. And that, my friends, is how you make a Karen's car and career disappear for good. Thank you for tuning in to HOA Stories, where neighbors stand up to tyrants and karma always comes knocking. If you liked this story, hit that like button, share your own HOA nightmares below, and subscribe for more real-life neighborhood drama every week.